I am Dr. Elizabeth Hopwood. I am currently the acting director of the Center for Textual Studies in Digital Humanities, and really excited to present another one in our workshop series this semester, where we've had workshops run by our Masters in Digital Humanities students. And today, our workshop on building with Omeka, I know is a popular topic. It's something that you can use for your own research or in the classroom. And leading us today is Andrew French. Andrew is a second-year student in the Digital Humanities Master's Program. He studied English as an undergraduate at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, and is currently a graduate fellow in the center. His research interests are in digital pedagogy and issues regarding equity and accessibility. And I'll note too that we'll have our last workshop will be at the end of March 24th, with Eleora Horst, which will be about XML transformations with JavaScript and Xslt. So if you are familiar with the TEI or work on the text encoding initiative projects or getting started or want to know how to turn your XML code into something readable by humans, that will be a great workshop for you, and we will send out information via our mailing list. And I'll note that this is being recorded for our center's YouTube page. And I'll hand it over to you, Andrew.
Awesome, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Andrew. Glad to see everyone here today. So let's get started. I will share my screen just right now. Everybody good? See that? Beautiful. So yes. I just see a black screen. I don't know if anyone else sees that actually.
Yeah, yeah, I might just be warming up.
A great start. Oh, okay. Nope. All right, it does not want me to do the PowerPoint presentation. We can do it just like this. All right. So yes, I'm going to be leading today a workshop on building digital exhibits with Omeka Classic. To start things off, I want to talk about a brief agenda for how I plan for this workshop to go today. This is just a brief general overview of what I'm going to be talking about. I will start by introducing Omeka and the main sort of terms and components of building an Omeka website. We'll then move to discussing metadata and the ways that Omeka encourages metadata input. We will then explore together the backend and front end of a site together, one that I've generated for our workshop today. And then finally, I want us all to get to have some hands-on experience in working on our own Omeka site. And you all will get the chance to add items and create your own exhibits with that site that I generated. So what is Omeka? Well, as they state on the website, Omeka is a web publishing platform for sharing digital collections and creating media-rich online exhibits. To break that apart a little bit, it's a platform that you can use to upload resources such as images, video, audio files, etc. They accept a wide range of file types, and you can upload these through the back end of a website. And then once you have that, you can sort these items into collections and arrange them into exhibits that can be displayed on the public side of a website and shared with others. Omeka is a digital scholar project originally launched at the Roy Rosenwig Center of History and New Media. And as I say on the website, the digital scholar projects were designed by historians, and their software and services make research, publishing, and cultural heritage work possible. And some other notable digital scholar projects are Zotero, Tropy, Press Forward, and Sorcery. So if you are familiar with any of those. So now on to the Omekas. There are three major components of Omeka and ways to use them. The first being Omeka S. This is for institutions managing a shareable resource pool across multiple sites. I've never worked with this and I'm not familiar with it, but I'm just bringing it up as for just common knowledge. The one we'll be working with today is Omeka Classic. Omeka Classic is for individual projects and educators to publish digital collections and exhibits. And another one of note is Omeka.net. This is very similar to Omeka Classic, but it is a hosted service option for publishing digital collections and exhibits. So the difference between Omeka Classic and Omeka.net is like, there's not a huge difference. The biggest thing is that Omeka Classic is that it is something that you download, and it is software that you download and requires you to install and figure out your own hosting for the website. Omeka.net is a website that you go to and they handle the hosting for your website, although they require you to create an account and subscribe for the service. So the differences really lie in like how you access the material and how accessible everything is to you based on like the services that they offer. So Omeka Classic, with it, you can upload resources or items, describe them with metadata, and arrange them for display on the public site. Users can add plugins to enhance the functions of the site and give more options for displaying their items as well. And one popular one that we'll be working with today is the exhibit builder. And this allows users to create exhibits with multiple pages from select items in the archive. And another plugin worth noting is the Simple Pages plugin. This allows users to create simple pages that are really good for like essays or an about section of your website that can be part of your top bar navigation. So there are some key components that are part of all the Omeka sites. There you have your items, which are the resources that are added to the archive of the site. You have your collections, which are groups that hold items together in a similar theme. You have item types, which are metadata groups that describe an item type, describe an item based on its type. And then you have tags, which are keywords that are applied to an item that link items across the archive. So now I want us to take a look at some examples of projects that use Nomeka just to give a visual representation of what this all looks like in use. So here I have this showcase. It's from the Omeka Classic website. And they have all these projects that are using Omeka. And this one in particular, the Baltimore Uprising archive project. It's a digital repository that seeks to preserve and make accessible original content that was captured and created by individual community members, grassroots organizations, and witnesses to the protests that followed the death of Freddie Gray on April 19, 2015. So when you come to this project, it opens and it has information about it. And if you want to delve into it, you can browse the items. And as you can see, there's plenty of items, like a lot that they have added to the site. And you can browse through all of these items that they have. If you want to look at a specific item, you can just select onto it. And it will open up onto the metadata associated with that item. So the title, subject, description, etc. Another thing you can do is go to the tags and see which items are using discussions. There's only one right now, but usually tags are a good way to link items that are around a similar theme or similar idea throughout the archive. You could also look at the collections. Again, this is the group of items that are housed by a similar theme, like an oral history toolkit, or down here, the Kurt Ellis collection. If you go to the collections, you can also see metadata about those collections, so title, subject, description, etc. And then you can see all of the items that are within this collection. And another one that I want to note as well is the Skillen North project. This is a project that draws on oral history interviews to build a digital archive and tell digital stories about the Great Migration to Philadelphia. So again, you come to this project, has information about it, and you can go through the biographies. And this is a project that uses the exhibit builder that we'll be working with later. And as you see, there's 26 exhibits that you can go through. They all have a brief summary about them. And if you want to learn more about it, you can select it and go into it. Here's a summary page about the exhibit, and here are the pages. And in the pages contain more information that are like, you can combine the select items from within the archive and your own text about the items to really like tell like a narrative about this. Another interesting thing about this one is a way to look at, load, there we go. These oral history interviews. So these are like the items within the site. If you want to look at one, this can show how you can listen to the interview itself and then see description that gives the metadata about that item. So these are just a few examples that I wanted to show just to get a sense of like what type of projects can be done using Omeka and how like customizable it really is. So back here. Now onto the exhibit builder. So what I just showed you in that one project, by installing the exhibit builder plugin, users can build digital exhibits from the items within their archive. And they consist of pages, as you saw, and each page has these content blocks that can display items with a different variation of text and images. So there was one page that has all those items and text intermingled. You can customize the pages however you'd like. And again, exhibits are really great because they expand the functionality of the site by offering users the ability to draft a narrative around their items. Now I want to talk about metadata. So I've thrown that term around a lot. Metadata is data about data. So it is information that further describes a resource. So if I were to take a picture using my cell phone, the timestamp, the date, the file size, the resolution, that's all automatically generated metadata. So it's telling a little bit more about the data that is the photo. With Omeka, you have to upload your own metadata. So when you're adding a resource to the archive, you then provide the metadata about that resource. And to do this, Omeka uses the Dublin Core Metadata Initiative, or DCMI standards, for metadata element sets. The DCMI is they're an organization supporting innovation in metadata design and best practices across the metadata ecology. So this organization, what they've come up with is the Dublin Core, which is a set of 15 core metadata elements. And these are common across anyone that's using the standard. You can, like Omeka, you can find these 15 elements, either some or all of them will be filled out with the resources that are using the standard. And you can see down here, there's the 15. I won't read them all, but as you're going through the Mecca site later, and I'll provide further documentation to look over this, you can see how these are used and how they're intended to be used, and examples of them. Another thing about metadata is that Mecca also has item types that a user can assign an item to. The default ones are here as well. There's 16 of them. And what's to know about item types is that each item type has metadata elements specific to that item type. So it's just another way to generate metadata about an item and further describe it more. So for instance, the text metadata item type, the text item type, the metadata elements are different for the moving image metadata elements. So they're tailored specifically to that item type. In Omeka, item types can be edited, they can be deleted from the site, or even new item types can be added if needed. So if you had a resource that somehow didn't fit within the framework of any of these item types, you could draft up your own as it fits your needs. So I just talked a lot. I want us to pause for a moment and think about metadata. And I want to open for discussion and just have people think about what is the purpose of metadata and what are the benefits of using metadata when describing resources? And then why use a standard like the Dublin Core? So feel free to raise your hand either. I don't know if I can see that actually.
Yeah, I come from a communications background. I always think metadata has different ways in which people can get to the information. Whether you're searching for title or specific to books, if you're searching for author, or if you're searching for a title, or searching for a particular category, theme of books, or a particular genre of books, for instance. So I always find like the most beneficial, yes, library systems and cataloging and all, metadata helps immensely, but as a user, as a lay user, I think the best thing is that I can access the same thing no matter what I'm looking for. So it's just like different entry points into that same object.
Yeah, definitely. It's really helpful for searching and accessing information. Owen, yeah.
Yeah, I would add just a little bit there to say that it also helps when you're sort of working between organizations. Not every organization is going to have the same data fields or the same cataloging system. So to have sort of a standardized system like the Dublin Core is really helpful when you're working between organizations.
Yeah, definitely. Regina, your hand is up.
Yeah, so I agree with Owen about the Dublin Core standardization. I guess for myself as a user, looking at the metadata also gives me more information than it's immediately evident when I just look at the object itself. Like when I look at the photograph, it's very useful for me to see the date because that gives me more information about the context that I can't get just from looking at the photograph. And sometimes the description also tells me look again at the photograph if I have not noticed some things.
For sure. Yeah, great answers, everybody. Thank you. So yeah, that's I think those are very helpful in helping us understand why metadata is so important and why Omeka really values metadata and generation on the site, and the idea of standardization by using the Dublin core. So yeah, let me move on now to, before I get on to the next part, I want to just briefly mention the users on Omeka sites. So there's 4 types of users. There's the super user, which they have access to pretty much everything on the site. They can do everything, they can edit everything, delete. So they're like the top tier user access. A step below is admin. They can do everything, but they can't access like the general settings of the site. So they can't affect the appearance or the plugins or anything, but they can add and edit and delete their own or other people's resources. Contributors, and one more step below, where they can only control the content that they create. They can view other people's content, but they can't really interact with it as much. And then research is the lowest tier, where they can access the admin side of the site, but they can only view the content. They can't really interact with it or create their own things. So I'm just moving things around. So now that we have an idea of what a Mecca is, let's take a look at the back and front end of an Omeka site together. So here is the back end of the Omeka site. This is one that I generated for this workshop. Whenever you log into the Omeka site, it will open up on your dashboard. This is just a brief overview of everything that is on your site. So you can see how many items, collections, tags, anything that was recently added. This is a good shot to see like what's all been changed and what has been added. So going down the line, I will look at items. Now I only have one item here. It is an example item that I've added of my cat, Tinkerbell. So when you add items, there of course will be a lot more information showing, but at a glance, you can look and see some details. If we want to investigate further, I can look into the item, and you'll see this is the Dublin core metadata that I added for this item, and I labeled it a still image item type and added the metadata for that. You can see I added it to an animal content collection because that collection best represents the type of content that this item is. You can see the tags that I've added. And I do want to note one thing really quick, that this right here, file metadata. So all of the files that you upload to the site has metadata fields for them as well. And this is useful in particular for adding alt text to your items. So alt text is alternative text that you can add to resources, particularly images. And this is helpful for accessibility purposes. Say if the image were to not load on the site, the alt text would appear and show, like, if it's descriptive enough, what is supposed to be there. And it's also useful for people that are using screen readers. So people that are hard of seeing, if they're using a screen reader and the screen reader will read the alt text to describe what the image is that the user would be seeing. And to do this, it's really simple. I clicked that metadata, went to edit, and then I can add just in the type field. So it's a photo of Tinkerbell. But it's really good practice to add alt text to your resources just for accessibility purposes. While I'm here, I'll look in the editor. So when you go to add an item or edit it, it will open up on the Dublin core metadata element sets. So you'll see I have title, format, date, subject, all of the ones that I listed earlier. They have little descriptions about them and little boxes for you to fill out the information in. The next is the item type metadata. From here, I selected still image, but if I were to select another one, say person, then different metadata elements would appear based on that type of item type. Files, this is where you'd upload your files for your resource. And tags, this is where you can add tags to your resource. When adding multiple tags, you want to separate them with a comma. So I have 5 right now. Yeah. Say if I want to add more, it's photo, it's animal. I'd separate it with a comma, and then I'd add the tag. And do note that when you add tags, the only time you have to save changes, because right now this wouldn't save. But if I want to remove tags, I can also remove and then save these changes. Voila. And what this looks like on the public page is similar to what we were seeing with the projects earlier, where when you click an item, it goes to the metadata information, first with the Dublin core. In the file, you can see the collection, the tags used, and it also generates a citation for you. So back to the menu, moving down the list, collections, of course, where the collections are held. There's only one animal content that I added for my pet. You can select the collections and see the Dublin core metadata that I generated about this, and also how many items are within that collection. Going to item types, you'll see these are all that I listed earlier, and each has a description about it that describes what type of item should be associated with this item type, and it also gives examples of like the type of item that would be used. If you want to learn more about them, you can just click on it, you see the description again, and the elements that are associated with this text item type. And these elements are different again from, say, moving image. This has different element sets based on the item type. Further down, here's tags. This is where you can search for the tags that are being used within the archive. This is useful for if you want to see like what is a popular tag being used, if you want to search for a tag that you want to use for an item, but you suspect maybe someone else is using it, so you can see like the wording that they have. Or it's even just good to browse once their archive's big enough that you can see perhaps there's a tag that you weren't even thinking of using, but could link your item to an unsuspected item within the archive. And here we have the exhibits. Here's my one exhibit. The theme of my cat appears again, where I've created one about my cat, Tinkerbell. So let's look a little bit more into the exhibit. So if I go to edit it, it will load. There we go. So when you go to add an exhibit or edit it, it will always open up on the exhibit metadata page. And you'll be prompted to add a title, which you'll have to add. The slug, this is the portion of text that will be in the URL when you're on the public page on this page. If you leave that blank, it will automatically generate what is put in the title section. Add credits, add a little description, add tags, change the theme, decide if you want the summary page, which I can talk more about later, add a cover image, and then here's your pages at the bottom. Here's the page that I added about my cat. Again, the page has its own title. The menu link title, this is an optional thing that I'll show, but it's a shorter title to use for your menu. And then the page style, of course, again, is automatically generated. But within this page is the content, the key component of the page. You see, I have one block, which is the file with text block. I have my file, and then I have my text. I could add another file item, or I could add more text, affect the layout if I want, or change that. And I can even add more blocks, and they give you 4 options. There's the file with text, the gallery view, text, or just the file. And so this is very versatile, very customizable based on how you would like your page to be presented. So if you want to view what this would look like on the page, you'll see there's my title, my item, the text about the item. Here's the menu link title that I was talking about. See, this text may have been a little too long and I wanted to shorten it. I could put that in the menu link title. And I can scroll through to adding multiple pages within this exhibit. And one last thing is the simple pages. So by default, the simple page is always, it starts as an about page, but you can use this for any type of page that you'd like. About is probably very popular. You could put essays on there or some contact information, but you go to edit it, you can add a title, your own slug, and then the text, which you can use HTML tags for as well. But looking back at the public page, so you'll see at the home, here's essentially what my dashboard was showing me on the back end. I want to browse items, I can go through here, browse collections, go through here, you can browse exhibits, and then look at your simple pages. So before I get on to the next thing I want to talk about, are there any, I know I had to talk fast about this because I want to have time for us to actually work with this. Are there any pressing questions or things that anyone would like me to go back and revisit or elaborate more on that you felt a little confused about? I don't see. So yeah, this.
You might be talking about this later, so ignore me if you are. But could you talk about a couple use cases of creating an Omeka site in the classroom, the ones that you set up with Dr. Jacob or Dr. Elsky? How might we use this for our research or in the classroom?
Oh, sure thing. Yeah, so I have assisted other professors on creating Omeka sites for their classroom projects. One that I worked on with Dr. Jacob was one about collecting the now. It was about 2020 and the different various happenings that were going on. So we had different collections based on, one was like the pandemic, another was on the Me Too movement, and one more was on the environment. And so the students could go through and add items that were pertaining to like one of those topics, one of those collections. And they would add metadata about that. And the final thing for them to do was then to draw upon the vast archive that they'd created and create exhibits about these topics, about like the happenings that were going on at the time, and try and draw like, just to kind of like show how like overlapping all of these issues really were in 2020 and still today. But it was just a way to show like the linkages between items within an archive, that one might be in another collection, one might be seemingly unrelated to another item, but it was a way to show like just how connected everything was. Another project that I'm working on this semester with Dr. Elsky is it's for her French class. It is, I don't speak or read French, so I don't necessarily know all of the things that they're adding to the site. I know, and my last name is French, I get that, that's funny. But what they're looking at is 19th century French literature. And so they're using it to, using Mecca to add these items and create their own exhibits based off of that. But yeah, that's just two examples of the ways that you can use Omeka for your own sort of class projects. It's great for anything that you're using that might involve different like resources that are like old images or like pictures that people are taking now, or videos or audio files or interviews, or really anything that you want to show connections with amongst or throughout the archive. If that is good, then the one last thing that I want to talk about before we get to the latter portion of this is, so you'll see that as a super user, I do have I have these menu options above. If I was an admin or lower, I would not see these. So I just want to go through these really briefly. So plugins is of course where you can install or uninstall plugins. Appearance, you can go to alter the appearance of the site. I use the Berlin theme. You could use Thanks Roy, or Seasons. And then users is where I'll be adding users later. It's where you can go to add and edit and delete users, and also change their user status. Settings is, of course, the settings for the site. And I won't get through all of this. It's a lot of information, a lot of things you can do, and a lot of really cool stuff that you can do with the Mecca, but I just want to get through the basics. But there's one thing that I would like to point out in these settings is within the element sets. So I had mentioned earlier that the item types elements, those you can edit and delete and customize as you see fit. The Dublin core element sets cannot be edited in the same way. They have to be a part of the site. That is like the core reason of why they're using the standard. But if you were working on a project and you wanted to edit in some way the Dublin core, you can do so slightly. If you go to the edit portion, you can rearrange these. Say if I want source up there, I don't know, just depending on like the ones you feel are most important for your project to put at the top, you can do so. You can also, this is cool, add comments. So I can't edit the description information here, but if I'm working with a lot of people and I want to keep, like while we're collaborating, I want to keep a set of standards on how to fill out this Dublin core information, I can add like a comment, say, like, just like that kind of like a date format like that. So when I save, and if I'm going to add an item, you'll see that my comment appears right below the date. So that is a useful way to, because the Dublin core is like a core part of Omeka. You can't get rid of it, which would be against the point, but you can sort of tweak it to your own like needs. So that is one thing I want to note. And all right, one last thing. When you're adding items, I forgot to mention this earlier, I apologize, but you're going to want to set everything to public, because if it's on private, then only people that have access to the admin side of the site can see it. So making things public is good. And then you, of course, select the collection that you want to be a part of. But okay, that was a lot I threw at you. I understand it may seem a little overwhelming, but I want to get the basics out there, just to kind of have you understand like the feel of using Omeka and how it looks. And so for this workshop activity that I have set up for you, my plan is I'm going to invite all of you to become users on this Omeka site, where my hope is that you can add items and build your own exhibits. The link I'll be sending to you will be sent to the email that you used to sign up for this workshop. And if you don't receive the email, check your spam folder, but otherwise, if you can't find it, just reach out to me. I'd say for now, take around 10-ish minutes to think about anything you might want to contribute to the archive while I'm setting everything up and inviting everybody. And in this time, I'd say feel free to use the chat to express some ideas you have for items that you might want to add, and maybe consult about potential themes that you want to use for collections. And I have some notes that I'll put in the chat. You can consult this link, which is, it's a lot of information, so you might not use it, but can't find the chat. That's like site planning tips that Omeka offers. Just if you get stuck in thinking about something, I really don't expect, this is not going to be a great research project. You can put something in that you feel comfortable with, say it could even be a pet photo along with my animal content. And my goal for this is just for you to get accustomed to uploading items and adding the metadata to them appropriately, and then eventually building your own exhibit. So really the idea is just to get comfortable with doing that process rather than thinking hard about the larger research questions that you might have. But I also have 2 more things to share in the chat. This one, I believe, this is a step-by-step documentation that I drafted up on how to add like items and how to add alt text and how to like build your exhibits that you can refer to if you need to. And then this last thing, I'll just add this now. This is like supplemental readings that I provided for everyone that are just based on like the further describe Omeka, Omeka Classic, the Dublin Core Initiative, etc. But for now, yeah, take a couple minutes, start thinking, start generating ideas, share within the chat if you feel like it. And I will go through the fun process of adding everybody to the site.
I was trying to add a picture of our family dog Tater to your site. And so I'm filling out Dublin Core. And there's some items that I don't understand what I'm supposed to say, how I'm supposed to respond.
Yeah.
But you say you can't leave any of these blank.
No, you can. I know that's
Okay.
I'm sorry, I may have been unclear about that. You can leave any things blank, and anything that's not filled in just won't show up on the public page.
And then where do I upload the photo? Like I described the photo, JPEG file, dimension 88.0 KB, but where do I put the photo?
So if you are within the add an item editor, at the top, you'll see there's a files tab.
Oh, okay.
So if you go to files, and then you'll say find a file, you can choose from your directory.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. I have to go before I'm supposed to be gone at now, actually, but I wanted to try this before I take off.
I would love to see your dog.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Okay, let me find my photo.
Yeah. And in terms of figuring out what metadata fields to do, I find that depending on the project or the class, like you decide, like we want, we really care about format, title, date, subject, and description, but we don't care as much about identifier and language or whatever else. And then you just keep it consistent, or you decide that you care about everything.
So when I choose the file, and it's there, it says Tater, I don't have to click save or anything. It just stays there.
Yeah, once you've selected that the file that you want in the files, and then it's been uploaded, it once you click add item or save changes, if you're updating changes, then it will be added to it.
I don't see save changes.
Oh, sorry.
I
If
see
you're add item, yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see that there's Tater.
I see it. Yay.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't quite clear on what I was doing there, but good. Okay. I'm so sorry, Andrew, that I have to take off, but thank you so much for this, and I will be in touch for sure. Thank you.
Sure thing. Yeah. Thank you for stopping by. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Pamela. Oh, he's cute.
And to build off what Liz was just talking about the kind of decisions you make with the metadata that you want to use for a project, it's like, it's kind of like you want to use as much metadata as possible, but at times like it might not be applicable to your resource or your item that you're trying to upload. So it's really based on like the decisions that you make at the start of the project, like which elements are you prioritizing, do you feel are most important, and which can kind of fall to the wayside. But it really falls down to keeping up like a standard throughout everything.
Even things like format, are we going to do like .jpg for JPEG, or are we going to do JPE to spell it out?
Yeah.
Or anything go? It's like decisions that you would make and standardize as a team.
Yeah, I'm used to the metadata from being co-director of ModNets, and so I'm used to the metadata standards. But Andrew, I might ask if you can consult with me, since you've helped some of my colleagues on websites. I want to do one for my fall graduate seminar, so I may be in touch asking you for some suggestions and help just getting started, if you don't mind.
Well, sure thing. I'd be happy to help.
Okay, yeah. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Yeah, and we can set up an instance, Pamela, on our site to host it.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so your second year, Andrew, so you'll be gone at the end of the semester?
Yeah, I'm hoping to stay in Chicago though. So.
Okay, well, I better get you May. Okay, thank you so much. Bye.
Of course. Bye.
Question. So
I think you muted yourself again.
yeah, sorry. So I can see that Dr. Kohi uploaded her dog as photo. We all others have a still image. I did not see the photo item type when I edit my entry.
Yeah. So the type field that you're seeing in the Dublin core is different from the item type. I know that sounds a little confusing. The item type is additional information that you will be adding with different metadata fields. And the item type still image is like the best encompassing for a photograph.
Yes.
So you're right on the mark in using still image for that.
Okay. I was just confused because like if you look at the browse items field, it's like everybody has still image, but there's Tater, and Tater is a photo, and I'm like, okay, why is that? That's because it's not the, wait a minute, can we edit this? We can edit this. Okay, so okay, because you did not select item type.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. That explains that.
And that's a good example again of like applying standards for like at the beginning of projects, so that when you're collaborating with a lot of people and there's like someone might say photo, someone might say photograph, like it kind of like can confuse a little bit. So just like being able to like have like that established standard. for this purpose, we didn't get that, but I think it's a good example of that.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's a way to like extract information from the image file and put metadata, because having each field feels so laborsome, filling out each field.
Yeah, they're I mean, if you're ever curious about something, like I know I don't know how it works on I know how it works on Macs, where if you hover over an image that is saved to your device and you select Command I, it'll show like the information about it. So it'll show like all like the file type and stuff. I don't know what Command is on like Windows though, but I think
No.
it's a similar thing.
I'm on Mac.
Okay.
I did that. I just
Oh, you just want the way to like the easy way to like, yeah.
You can, this might not be related, but you can bulk upload items with a CSV file.
Ooh,
It's a whole other process.
that is interesting. How? Do you know? Do you have a
I
view?
don't remember how off the top of my head, but I know that there is a way to do it.
Thank you for that.
I really enjoy all of the animal content.
So I'd say just take a couple more minutes if you have any other items that you're trying to add, and then we can move on to making these into an exhibit, your own personalized exhibit.
Oh, we're not supposed to make those into an exhibit yet.
I mean, if you've started, that's totally fine. No worries. just that and trying to section out the time in my head. I'm just trying to
Yeah,
step-by-step
sure.
process. Wanted to talk about is that you can embed links into metadata fields. So if you're trying to share, say, like a video from like YouTube or even the body of a tweet itself, you can copy the embed link, which usually if you go to share these items, there'll be an option to option to copy the source code. And then if you go to the metadata fields and using the, again, do the use HTML for that field, you can, at the top right of the transform box will be a bit for source code where you can paste the source code there. And then once you save the video or like the tweet or whatever, Instagram post, anything will be embedded within. So it's just a nice visual way to see like the actual, like where the source is coming from or like the actual bit of media that you have if it's not something that you have on file. And I found it in one of the projects, the project that I worked with Dr. Jacob on, a lot of the students were including like Twitter, Instagram, like social media posts, because those were like a lot of very like in the now, very generative of like speaking to the moment in time. And so we decided to have them embed these links just for better like accessibility and better use or user experience when they were on the public side of the site. So that's just an interesting, I think, really cool function that Omeka offers you to use with the use HTML box.
I'm running into kind of an issue. I can't seem to find how to add content to my pages on the exhibitions. I get the page title, menu link title, page slug, and then content, and then there's nothing in content. And if I say expand all, there's nothing there. There's just to reorder blocks and items, click and drag them to the preferred location. There's just nothing. I can't seem to add or do anything with my content page.
Which is your exhibit that you're on?
My exhibit is wait a minute, what did I call it? Senior feline citizen.
I see. Okay, so let me look. So you're talking about within the pages you're trying to add content?
I mean, I don't, or like, however, I can add content. I looked at another exhibit and there is like an add items and like contents thing on the page, but like on this page itself I have here, there's just nothing. I can't see anything.
So if you are looking in the editor of the exhibits of your exhibit, which I'm looking at it right now.
Mm-hmm.
If you, so go to the bottom and you see the pages.
Yes.
So Nina in all her glory.
Yes.
If you just click on the name Nina in all her glory,
yes,
that'll bring you then to an editor for that page.
Yeah, but on that editor, I can't
then,
see anything. On that editor, all I have is the page title, the menu link title, and the page slug, and the content is empty, and there is like no.
Okay, yes. So you can, so for the content blocks that are there, so file with text, gallery, text, and file, you select one of them, and then select at the bottom, it'll say add new content block.
Wait, where do I do that?
I'm sorry. Okay, so if you're on, if you're on the page, Nia in all her glory.
Yes.
And you see the content where it says there's one like file with text, there's gallery, text, and file.
Don't see any of that.
Interesting.
Like it's like really, all I get is content, and then it's all just gray, and there's the reorder content thing, expand all, collapse all. And then there's just nothing else there. I don't know if I'm missing, if I missed checking a box, or if I'm missing like user privileges or something. I don't know, it's weird.
Oh, so you don't see anything below. I see the expand all collapse all. You don't see anything below content.
May I share my screen, then I can show you?
Yeah. Let's see, Prakriti, do you think you could give him access to, yeah.
Okay, so here, this is what this looks like for me. So there's just nothing here.
Oh, I see that. Okay, that's not what I'm seeing on my. Maybe try. Go back to senior feline citizen, and then just maybe try and delete that page and try and start anew. So then save changes, and then add a new page.
Nope.
Okay. I have not encountered this before. I am not.
Oh, you know what I think this might be? I might have too many ad blockers and script blockers running.
Oh, that could be something.
That's probably the problem. Wait a minute, let me just turn those off. Ah, there we go.
There we go. All right. Perfect. When you're describing it, I'm like, it should be there. And then I see, I'm like, okay, yeah, you can't work with something when it's not there. But I'm glad that got resolved. Okay, so I'll give it a couple more minutes before we start to wrap it up, and then we can look at each other's exhibits, talk about our experience, and just sort of reflect on how we might use Omeka later on. So just to perform some finishing touches.
I should probably have stopped screen sharing. I'm sorry.
All right. So I think we can move on to looking at the exhibits, see what you all have created. I don't know if anyone would like to share. I can start if not.
I'll share.
Great.
Mine is pretty pretty minimal. It's called Animal Leisure Time, and I just picked from some of the images that I saw that I liked and tried to think of a commonality between them. And it shows animals and pets doing what they love to do best, relaxing. And then I chose a kind of a grid layout with 3 photos, but you could imagine more, and just kind of an overall statement and short captions. So that was
Love it. I created one about the cats in my house. So this is my cat Tinkerbell. I had a little blurb about her. And then here's Sukti, it's my roommate's cat. A little bit about her. Yeah, it's very standard, very standard exhibit about using the default themes. I'm glad that we did stick with an animal theme. That is kind of nice to see all of these pets. I'll say real quick, while I'm here, I did add what I was talking about, an example of an embedded source and what that might look like. So you'll see that I embedded the source of this tweet within here. So when I view it on the public page, that's what it looks like. So it's just a little more user-friendly if you want to add sources like that.
But isn't embedding tweets like this a little dangerous? Should they be deleted? Because then you just suddenly have like nothing left.
That is a very important consideration to make when you are embedding someone else's, like, first of all, when you're embedding someone else's like information or like something that someone else created. One, you want to get permissions to do so, especially if it's something like sensitive topics, like the project I mentioned that I worked on last semester was a lot of like, especially with the Me Too movement, these are sensitive materials. If you don't want to expose, like, even though it's on the internet, it's good consideration to ask, like, if you have permission to do so. And what you're mentioning about also if a tweet's deleted, that is where the metadata comes in handy. I just quickly threw this up, but if I wanted to, which I should, I can take the text from this tweet and add it in. So if I wanted to use the item type of text, I could copy that text and put it in the text field to show, like, if the tweet doesn't load or if the tweet doesn't show up, what the text would be. And there's also options to use like screenshots of images as well. But I just wanted to show that quick example. And I also wanted to, I think, Liz, you had mentioned in the chat, let me pull that up, how you found Omeka to be a great tool for students to find and engage with primary source materials. And that's very true. This is a really good way to, by engaging with these primary sources, getting them to really think about these sorts of questions as to, like, since they're filling out the metadata themselves, like, who's the creator, what is the source, like how to describe this item. So it gets, like, it really is useful for engaging with these primary sources and trying to like fully understand the material that you're working with.
Yeah, I did a project with students where they went through different library collections and digital archives and pulled out images or articles all related to like a food-centered topic. So one was like, one was just like tea and one was coffee, but then one was like race and gender representations of like brand mascots. And they found items like across multiple archives around their topic, uploaded them, and then created exhibits to kind of kind of explain how they curated them together and how they were kind of reading them, which is great because often, they don't know, and this is undergraduates, like they don't know that, they can go out and look at primary sources that are out there that people, might not have considered before.
But so yeah, that's the activity that I had planned. That's I hope having a little more hands-on experience working with Mecca has been a little bit useful, and seeing the odd ways in which ad blockers can even interfere with stuff you have.
Yeah, that's actually really good to know for future troubleshooting.
Another thing that this reminded me of is that when I had a problem with embedding a tweet once where it just wasn't showing up, it was because the tweet had an emoji in it, and Omeka could not recognize what that character was. And so that was just causing an error. So it's a lot of while it's really useful for and very powerful tool, it still has ways in which
Would that also happen if you have tweets that have non-regular fonts in it? Because I know that some people in the screen reader community have massive issues with there's these customized fonts for Twitter that some people use for the usernames or just to write tweets with, and that those just don't work well with screen readers at all. And so I could imagine that something like Omeka might have issues with that as well.
It might actually. I've never encountered that, although I don't think I've used a lot of materials with custom fonts like that. But Omeka is very powerful and it has a lot of accommodations, but it does have some shortcomings in that regard. So it could very likely have issues. So just being conscientious that the material you're adding may have its own problems that you have to tweak to get it to work on the site. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have for you all. Thank you so much for being here, for your participation. I hope this was helpful in at least getting the baseline of how to use Omeka, how to navigate it, how to create your own projects. And I will have a blog post on the DHSA blog up in the next coming days about this, where I'll also provide the supplemental reading materials that I added in the chat. So for any further research and just questions about either Omeka or Dublin core can all be found there.
Great. Thank you, Andrew.
For sure.
Yeah, thank you. That was pretty
Great
good.
resources too.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.
I think that's bye everyone.